brother.
Namaskar.
I'm here with Brother Devashish, who's going to tell some more Baba stories.
Okay, as I mentioned the first time that you so graciously interviewed me, I saw Baba 4 times in Bankipur jail, and I told the story of the first 2 times I saw Baba, along with how Baba brought me into Ananda Marga. So I'll just mention a couple more from those visits to Bankipur jail. And the first story is only peripherally my story. I say peripherally because I saw Baba 4 times in Bankipur jail, but I actually got permission to see Baba 5 times. And I think it was after the third time that there was a brother from Australia, and you might remember his name better than I do. I think his name was Dinkarji, or something very close to that.
Dinka.
He passed away. Yeah, he passed away in the early '80s in an accident.
Yeah, it's
I
Dinka.
think he hit a truck or something like that.
Hmm.
What happened was that he was in India trying to see Baba, and he couldn't actually get permission. I forget the reason why. Maybe he had a problem with his passport or whatever happened, but he couldn't get in to see Baba. So then a couple of Australian Margis, they approached me. I had just gotten permission to see Baba yet again, but I had already seen Baba 2 or 3 times in Bankipur jail. I said, well, would you possibly consider letting Dinakar use your passport and your permission to see Baba to get in to see Baba? He has to go back to Australia. He have to go back without seeing Baba. For a moment, I hesitated. What happens if he gets caught and he's got my passport? And I thought, well, we're Westerners. We all look alike to them. I had this thought in my head. I was 20 years old. I thought we all look alike. They're not going to be able to tell the difference. And when you went into Bankipur jail to see Baba, very quickly you went into one room. The superintendent was there, and then there was 1 or 2 CID officers, and it was their job to go through the paperwork. They would, like when you go into an airport, and you show your passport and you show your boarding pass, and they look at the passport, and then they look at you and say, okay, and then you wave through. It was pretty much the same thing. They would look at the passport, look at you, they review your documents. You got to get a number of signatures from different officials, government's office, superintendent of prisons, and several others. And then after that, you'd be ushered into the prison led to Baba's cell. So I said, okay, yeah, this seems like a good thing to do. And so Dinkar he took my passport and my permission, and he went in and saw Baba. And then, it was very nice. I felt like I had done a good deed for a fellow Margaret. Now, a few years later, I heard about his accident, his passing. And then I met his wife. I knew her from before. I forget her name, something like Angela, something like that, if I remember correctly. But she told me,
Anjali.
Okay, I remember correctly. I thought her name was Anjali at that time. She told me the story of what happened, and very briefly, it really was very emotional. But as I remember her telling me, she said that the day of his accident, he was driving back. It was a long distance from someplace, and he stopped to call her. And he stopped. He said, "I just had to call you because I'm seeing and feeling Baba everywhere. His presence is so strong. I'm feeling so much love and so much bliss. At this moment, I just felt I had to stop and just tell you this experience." And then it was shortly after that he had this accident and passed. I mean, she told me this story, and I remember to this day, thinking that how gracious Baba was when it was his time to take him out of his body, that he gave him that experience. And we've all heard stories like that of others who've had special experience with Baba before Baba ushered them into the next life or into the passage between lives. So that's always remained in my mind. So like I said, I was peripherally connected with that, but it was very nice to hear that story from her. So anyhow, one more thing from the last time I saw Baba in jail. That time I was there with one Malaysian Margi. I don't remember his name. He was quite a character. I could tell some stories about him and his stay in India. But one thing I wanted to remember to mention from that story is one thing Baba told us, and there's that famous those famous lines from the Kulanara Tantra, Dhyanamulam Guru Murti Mantramulam Guru Vakyam. At the root of dhyan is the root of meditation is the form of the guru. At the root of mantra is the word of the guru. So there's certain things that Baba said to me or that I heard in small groups Baba saying that have always resonated with me throughout my life and have resonated more and more as time goes on. It's like seeds, a mantra, and bija mantras are seed mantras that kind of stay there. And as time goes on, the seed sprouts. And I always felt, the words of the guru, at least in my experience, as the ones that I've heard directly, especially Baba talking to me, I can feel them sprouting as the years and the decades roll on. And the meaning that saying of the guru that was pregnant with meaning nearly 50 years ago becomes even more pregnant with meaning for me as time goes on. So Baba's, he said, life is like traveling on a train. And he meant specifically the experience on traveling Indian trains. So he said, life is like being in a waiting room when you're taking a journey. And we know how it is in these Indian raiding rooms. The trains are slow, and you never know how long you're going to wait until you get, because the train's so often delayed until the next train is coming in. So Bob was describing what it's like in the raiding room. He says, you go into the raiding room, and you meet all these people there, and you form these relationships in the moment. And there's children and there's old people and people are eating and so much is going on. And you're really there, and it can be very enjoyable, very interesting. But you never forget that you're on a journey. You're heading someplace. And this is just a temporary way station on the journey. The point, you enjoy your experience while you're there in the waiting room, but you never forget that your train is going to be pulling in. And so you're going someplace, never forget where you're going. And this is just a temporary way station along the way. And, as the years goes by, of course, I'm getting older as the years go by. And the idea of, moving on, this waiting room is a temporary experience. And that the real point of the journey is to catch our connection and get to the destination. So, that was the way Baba described it was very beautiful. I don't remember, obviously, the exact words, but his describing the experience of being in the waiting room, but always listening for when your connection is coming in. Anyhow, out of the many things I've heard Baba say, that's one of the things that, as the years go by, continues to resonate even deeper. So anyhow, that was the fifth time I got permission, but the fourth time I actually saw Baba in Bankipur jail. And then Baba, after the emergency ended, it took time to go through the legal, all the legal paperwork and things that need to be done to get Baba to come out. But anyways, we finally, those things were all processed, and we knew the day that Baba was going to come out. August 2nd, 1978. Yeah, 78. So I just describe a little bit of my experience when Baba came out of jail. Um, so actually, by this time, I was 21. No, yeah, I was 21 by then. And I had been in India already for a year. And so we all know that Baba was coming out and it's going to be more or less mid-morning. And I was really familiar with Bankipur jail. I had, as I described the last time, that first interview, that when I would go to Patna for a few days, I was living in Nagar to get permission to get to see Baba in jail. Then while I'm going through the process of getting the signatures, I would go to Bankipur jail during the day, meditate in the courtyard outside the main gate. So I was very familiar with the workings of the jail and the surroundings, and of course, Baba was inside. So there was this incredible special attraction of being able to be near Baba, even though he was on the other side of these huge concrete walls, and to be able to meditate there and see Margis coming in and out. So I decided, okay, this is going to be a huge event. I need to get there early if I'm going to, be able to get right by the gate when Baba's coming out. So I think we were told it was going to be maybe what, I don't remember exactly, maybe 10 o'clock, mid-morning he would come out. So I made sure I got there before 8 o'clock. And and I was right at the front of the gate. I mean, literally touching the bars, right of one of the very first people to be there. But it was India, and people were arriving in droves and droves of people. So that the main road, Boring Road, which the big thoroughfare in the jail, as you're looking towards the train station, is on the right hand side. And that was blocked off by the authorities, so there was no traffic on that road. And it gradually filled up with people. There were trains coming in. People told me this who were on those trains. They're totally full of Margis, so full that there were Margis traveling on top of the train because they couldn't get inside. There were whole villages, according to some of the accounts that people shared with me, that were coming in. And the entire Boring Road, huge thoroughfare in both directions, just became a sea of people. And India, being India and that wonderful culture, I started right by, right touching the bars. Within a couple of hours, I was like 10 meters behind because it's just people jostling and pushing to get in front. And and so about that, it wasn't too long before, we were thinking, oh, it can't be this long. I was a little bit frustrated because I'm no longer right in front. And it was really, people pressing to get close to the gate. So one Dada who I was friendly with, he came up, senior India Dada. He came up to me and said, look, Devashish, inside, before Baba comes out the gate, he's gonna be in the car, and then the car is gonna come out, and you look at this credible, this massive people. You're not even gonna be able to see Baba. You should do one thing: go back to Baba's house and wait for Baba there. There's hardly any people are going to be there, and that way you'll be able to see Baba when the car is coming in and give Baba namaskar. And this sounded like a great idea. But by that time, it's August in India. It's hot, sweating like crazy, and you got, I don't know how many thousands of people. Some estimates were up to like 50,000. I don't know if it got that high, but it was, a huge sea of people. So I thought, no, God, that's so much nicer. So there was one new brahmachari, Canadian Dada, my age, 2021. So I told him, let's go back to Baba's house. This is a really good idea that Dada gave him. So it was about a 45-minute walk down Boring Road. to get to Patliputra colony, where we had the central office, and we had the Jagrati, which is later became the Tri office, and then Baba's house, all in close to each other. So we're walking back, and maybe, it's about 25, 30 minutes and walk, or not that far away. But it's hot out, and I got this idea. Hey, they'll only stop for a few minutes. It's all these like kiosks on off the side of the road where you can get cold drinks and Indian sweets. And we saw a sweet shop and get a cold drink. So let's stop for a few minutes, get some sweets, have something to drink, and then keep on walking. And it was a little bit lower than the asphalt. To the kiosk on the side. So kind of like walked down maybe a meter lower and sat down, had something to drink, and eating some sweets. And then after a few minutes, I heard this honking of horns. And I went, well, what's that? So let me get up and see what's going on. And it was just a couple meters to the road. And the road's it's blocked off. But these 2 or 3 cars are coming down the road, and I see the swastika flag, the Ananda Marga flag, on the first car. So, my God, there's Baba's car, and so I'm right at the side of the road. And as Baba's car is coming by, his window is open. Baba is on that side of the car in the back seat, and he gives us this huge, beautiful namaskar. And because it's India and the roads are full of potholes, they're actually going very slowly. It's maybe, I don't know, 35 kilometers an hour maximum. So they're coming on at a leisurely pace. And I was so grateful, even though I felt a little bit sheepish, because Baba caught me eating sweets on the side of the road instead of going straight to his house. But and actually, Dada was still sitting there back at the kiosk. But I was like 1 meter from Baba's car, maybe a meter and a half, as his car is pulling by, and Baba's in the open window giving me namaskar. So that was a really beautiful experience. So we carried him back to his house. And most of the people who had come to see Baba, they went back. No one expected that Baba would be giving darshan. Of course, not too far from the Jagrati, there was an empty field, and they set up a tent there and straws for people who are going to stay overnight to sleep. And we cried it outside Baba's house. We heard, what was going on, that Baba had broken his fast. His sister was there, and she had made some food for Baba. I'm not sure. I used to remember what he ate. I think he had 1 puri, maybe a little khichdi, but anyways, whatever Baba ate, he broke his fast. But that we heard from outside Baba's house. And then, everybody went back to home because, Baba had been fasting, for 5 years, 4 months, and 3 days, whatever they said, or 3 days, whatever it was. And so nobody expected that Baba would come and give darshan immediately after coming out of jail and breaking his fast. But the people who didn't go back immediately were sleeping in this field. And I heard accounts that maybe there were still like 10,000 people there. I don't know exactly, but there were, most of the people were gone, but there was still, a good number of people there. And along with the other few Westerners who were there, I was staying in the Jagrati. But then the next morning, when Dada comes out, I said, Baba's going to give darshan. Everybody was so surprised because we've been told, Baba wouldn't be giving darshan, at least for a few days, as he's recovering from his fast. They said, get ready, quick. He's going to come to the pandal. That was where everybody was sleeping, that big tent. And he's going to give darshan. So everybody gets ready. We hurry over there. And I got there. I remember I wasn't actually near the front. I was probably more towards the front third, directly in front of the dais. But the energy was really amazing. I was 21 years old, I've been in India for years, so so I had some experience with the Margi culture in India, but this was something uh, I could not have expected. The VSS guards had set up like a corridor, but they some data brought Baba in carrying Baba, and corridor with lathis to keep the Margis off. And as Baba was brought into the dais, the emotion was just, it was so electric. And they were literally mothers trying to push their babies over the lathis so that Baba would bless them as Baba was walking by. When I finally sat down, of course everybody is giving Baba namaskar as he's coming in, and then he sits on the dais. Um, for the vast majority of those Margis, almost all Indian Margis, they had not seen Baba in over 7 years. And many of these were old Margis from Bihar, those first Margis who had such a devotional relationship with Baba. And so the emotion just like, oh, it was something I'll never forget. And when Baba gave a short darshan, which is it's printed after some singing things. This is before Prabhat Sangeet, but there was some bhajan, some kirtan. Then Baba gave and the kirtan came after, but Baba gave a short talk, and then Baba very unexpectedly he gave Varabhaya Mudra. And I was sitting in a sea of senior devotees from India, and it was I've been to many DMCs after that, but I never after that experienced such an outburst of emotion and devotion both from these Margis. Everybody was crying, was breaking up, was falling over, was blah, 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 shouting. I mean, I should have been doing sadhana during Varavai Mudra or immediately afterwards. I mean, I felt a wave coming from Baba, but I was also just stunned by what I was experiencing around me. And I was looking at these people falling, and it was just an incredible experience. And I really felt, my God, all this pent up devotion for these senior Margis, these devotees who had been with Baba for so many years. This was 1978. Many of them had been Margis from the 50s, from the early 60s. And it was, it's really such a powerful experience. So that was what it was like when Baba came out of jail. Now, after that, Baba started coming to the Jagrati. I forget how many days after to give darshan. For a while, he was coming every day, and also in the evening. It wasn't darshan, but for at least a few weeks after that, Baba would sit on his porch, and they would let some Margis to come in and sit with Baba in the evening. And Baba would talk with people, and somebody would sing a bhajan, somebody else sing a bhajan, and I was fortunate enough for this first couple weeks to be able to go in each night and sit with Baba there. Now, so and darshans are going on. Initially, Baba was giving some of the darshans in English. I remember at least part of the darshans in English before he switched to speaking only Hindi. So it was obviously a magical time. But I wanted to mention one thing. So after Baba came out, and I had been in India for a year, and I was in Nandnagar for the first 6 months, basically working as an LFT, and then for the next 6 months, I was in central office working as an LFT. At that time, the central office was on Panditi Road. This is before Tilajala was built, well before it. So I was very close to the central workers at that time. I was kind of a mascot, this young Western brother who was living in the central office with Vijayananda and Pranavananda and all these senior daughters and Shraddhananda, all these guys in the different main posts. So after Baba came out, within the next few weeks, all this Western Margis started arriving to come see Baba. You know, they had come before. Some people would come. They were, you know, in groups of 1, 2, 3 to try to get permission to see Baba in the jail. But now that Baba was out, it almost became like a flood. There were groups coming from different sectors. I remember at one time, like 20 people came from Italy. Then there was a group came from Brazil, and you know, from Taiwan, all different places, and everybody wanted to get personal contact with Baba. So Ramananda, Baba's personal assistant, he informed us that you know there was now a rule in place that in order to get personal contact, you had to sign up to become an acharya. You had to give you a promise that you go to acharya training. It was going to be limited to people who are willing to dedicate their lives. It wasn't like that immediately after Baba came out, but I hadn't gotten my personal contact yet. You know, I'd seen Baba in the jail 4 times, but personal contact was a very different thing. So, and I've been an LFT before coming to India, you know, in the US. And then I was an LFT in India for like a year before Baba came out. And I'm still an LFT at that time. But Ramananda said, "Oh no, Devashish, you know, I went in, I applied anyways to, you know, for personal contact." I said, "No, Devashish, you know the rule. You have to give your word that you will go to acharya training if you want to get personal contact." I said, "Dad, I haven't made the decision yet, you know." And I was seeing all these people, some of whom I knew, some Americans. Just, yeah, sure. Where do I sign? You know, I'll go to acharya training and get the personal contact and go back home, and that was the end of it. But I couldn't do that because the relationship I had with the workers. I was living in India. I said, no, that I haven't decided yet, so I can't sign. So, okay, Baba's door is always open. I never forget Ramananda's words. Baba's door is always open. But I hadn't made a decision yet. So finally, time came, I couldn't get a visa anymore. I couldn't renew my visa anymore to India, and I had to leave the country. So is in the next, when I had to leave, I went to France and worked as an LFT there. I met Veda Pragyananda, who you know I knew, and he said, well, you come work with me there. So I was LFT when Baba came to France. So the other LFT was Vishal, at present Dada Vishrupananda, and we were the 2 LFTs. And Baba came to Fish. The only photo that I have with me and Baba in the same photo is when the Baba in the airport at Fish, of Yesh, how we pronounce it, Fish, I think. And there's me with the guitar in the very front row because I was playing kirtan when Baba came off the plane and came into the waiting area and sat with the Margis. So Baba came to Fish, and that was all wonderful. But then after Fish, me and Vishal we had to go back to Lyon to prepare for Baba's visit there. So Baba arrived. There were several rooms. So the bathroom and maybe 4 rooms, something like that. So when Baba came and he was informed that a room in a hotel had several rooms, one booked for him, another one for his entourage, Baba was not pleased. People who read Dada Veda Pragyananda's book, maybe, I'm not sure if it's in Ramananda's book, I don't remember, you can get some details on that, but basically Baba was upset, made his feelings known, and he didn't want to stay in a hotel. So arrangements had to be made on the spur of the moment to be able to put Baba up in the Jagrata. So one room, and we were working like frantically to do that while Baba Baba was basically on ice, waiting for us to prepare the Jagrati, within a couple of hours for him to come there. So a portable toilet was put in actually my room. became a bath, an extra bathroom. And then the bathroom became Baba's private bathroom. The other one we used for workers. Ramananda had his room next to Baba's room, which is Vishwapananda Vishal's room. It was Baba's room, and that's where the personal contacts were taking place. So on this particular day, I think it was the first day. It was a lot happened in that in Baba's visit to Dion. But there was the line for personal contact. And so Vishal Vishwapananda and myself, we were in that line. There were other Margis, but we had priority because we were the two LFTs who had basically been working since Fish to prepare the program. And when Ramananda saw me near the head of the line, he said, "Oh, Devashish, you're on the list to become Acharya. If you want to have your personal contact with Baba, you have to sign to become Acharya." It wasn't the rule anymore, but that's when Ramananda said to me, and I was like, "What the?" It's kind of in shock. But Dharma Vedananda was standing right there. He was the head of for Baba's entourage of the VSS, and he jumped all over Ramananda. He said, "What are you saying, Papa? This brother's been working so hard to prepare this program. Papa, you can't have the." And Ramananda was like, he was like shocked himself. He was taking it back. So okay, go. You can go. Afterwards, I think it was so funny that he remembered that from India. But anyhow, so I went in to Baba's room, which had been Vishal's room, and I did Sastang Pranam. And when I sat up, the very first experience I had looking into Baba's eyes from this very short distance of less than a meter was immediately I had a recollection, a sudden flash in my mind, recognizing Baba from a previous life as my guru. And it was kind of a shock to me. This was something that just happened in a flash, and the shock came with it. And sort of the shock, I give words to it later on, was that it was such a surprise because I had seen Baba so many times, in the previous 2 years. I had been with Baba 4 times for like half an hour each time in Bankipur jail, but this time I had that sudden experience, and it was like sudden, getting doused with cold water, that kind of, except extremely pleasant shock. And then a couple of things I'll mention about the personal contact that have stayed with me. So Baba actually, at some point, Baba was like, Baba asked me to sit on his lap. At some point, he was so. Actually, first I had a question for Baba, and then he asked me to sit on his lap. So Baba do the usual thing. He at some point, I think this was later, he was kind of hugging me, and he whispered in my ear in French, which Baba did to several people there. Mon petit garçon, my little boy. As he would say to people, but he said to me in French there, even though I wasn't French, but both Vishal and I were fluent in French by that time. So that was very, very nice. But I before I remember, Baba asked me to sit on his lap. And so I sat on Baba's lap and I was hugging Baba, and I started crying. Just the tears were just pouring out. And I think, this is, I think later I've heard, other people in personal contact have that same experience, a very similar experience. But my feeling at that time, as these tears just came flooding out, this emotion, was that I was finally home, that my whole life, it was all designed to arrive at that moment. And everything that I had experienced in my entire life had led up to sitting on Baba's lap, and just all whatever, emotions that I had built up over 21 years just came out. And I remember after the personal contact, and that I went out and did sadhana, after personal contact, everybody, people always recommend do sadhana. And I remember this song came to me, and I wrote a song. I don't remember the song anymore, it's long gone, but I remember the gist of the song, that now that I sat on the lap of God, what more can touch me now? I mean, that's it. I felt that I had achieved the purpose of my life sitting on Baba's lap. But before the personal contact was over, after I was sitting and crying, some minutes went by, and there was some conversation. But then I said, Baba, I have a question. It wasn't actually a question, but I phrased it that way. And Baba he leaned back and said, yes. I said, Baba, I want to be an avaduta. I used that word, not acharya. I said, Baba, I want to be purposely an avaduta, but I have a lot of clash about it. And Baba kind of leaned back, he's sitting, well, with his legs crossed in a certain way. You can't see the way my legs are crossed. He leaned back, a kind of powerful expression on his face. And Baba said, look at me. Am I afraid of clash? And he hit himself 3 times in the chest, really hard. He said, am I afraid of clash? No, clash is afraid of me. And then he said, am I afraid of fear? No, fear is afraid of me. Bah! And of course, the root of my class obviously is based in fear, and Baba made that very clear. But it was such an empowering experience, and sitting there in front of the guru, and that force, that Baba emanated, showing it through his body and through his words. It was wow. Another thing, mantra mulam guru vakyam, and other words of Baba that I will carry to my grave. And beyond. Well, grave, we won't use that word because we're all being cremated, but, in the passage to the next life. And then after that, and it had been a while. This is a kind of long personal contact. And then I was getting ready to leave, and all of a sudden, wait, and he started, which he also, I think, did with a number of other people at that time. He started intoning some Sanskrit mantras, and then as he was doing, touching each of my higher chakras. And that was a pretty nice experience. And so finally, I did sastam, and I went out and did my meditation and wrote my song. So, so the rule was that one could not go on field walk until one had had personal contact. So in that previous time in India, after Baba came out, even though I got to see Baba every day for some months, I wasn't able to go on field walk. I was able to go later, but my first field walk with Baba was that day. So had personal contact in the evening. The field walk was on the banks of the Rhone River in Lyon. Now that river, there's a quay, and the quay is at a lower level than the street. So you got like on both sides of the river, there's asphalted street, city street, and then you walk down steps and you get to a quay. I don't remember how higher up or how lower the quay is in the river from the street, but it's the distance. So it's rather you're a little, it's quieter there. The sound is somewhat muffled, and it's a beautiful walk along it's concrete along the bank of the river. So we were grouped there. I remember Dalve Pragananda was there. I remember Sheila, who's now family acharya from the Philippines. At the time, she's married to Guru Charan, who was French Margi, senior French Margi. And this group, maybe 10, 12 of us were walking. So at some point, a folding chair had been brought for Baba, and maybe it was Dharma Vedananda, I think. he put out folding chair, and Baba sat down. And I was sitting right at Baba's feet, touching Baba's feet. And behind Baba, his face was framed in the night sky. It was now night. It was basically a cloudless sky, so it was spangled with stars above, the roofs of the high rises, and it was just a beautiful image. And Baba, he closed his eyes or half closed his eyes, and he was silent for 1 or 2 minutes. And everybody else, of course, was hushed, was silent. And I was looking up at Baba's face like this, because I was right in front of Baba, and with the stars behind him. And I had this feeling that Baba was withdrawing his consciousness back into Nirguna, back wherever wherever that consciousness goes on when it retreats from the world of Saguna. And it was such a feeling, Baba withdrawing his consciousness, sitting there right in front of Baba's face. And then after a couple of minutes, Baba, he opened his eyes and he leaned down towards me and he spoke. And Baba's voice was rather, gravelly, grave, low sound. But this time it was particularly a grave tone, and I felt like it was coming from a distance. Call it a metaphorical distance, a distance from, still connected, partially connected, partially with Saguna, partially with Nirguna. And Baba said, there in his low characteristic, but different than his usual voice. So there are so many people in this world who are suffering, but they don't have the words to express their suffering. You will have to express it for them. Talk about the words of the Guru that resonate with the person for the rest of their life. At that time, I had no inkling that I would one day want to write, become a writer. But of all the things that may have motivated me or inspired me to write, the main motivation was what Baba said to me that evening on the banks of the Rhone rivers. And never forget that when I sit down and I'm working. There are so many people in this world who are suffering, and they don't have the words to express their suffering. You will have to express it for them. So we get back to the Jagrati, and there's going to be darshan. And before the darshan starts, Dharma Vedananda comes up to me and he grabs me by the shoulders and kind of shakes me. Devashish, did you understand? Baba was telling you to become an acharya. I know it's not exactly how I interpreted what Baba said, but it was kind of funny that after Dharma Vedananda got me into my personal contact, that was it, what he thought Baba was trying to communicate to me. But after the darshan, and just to complete that magical day, so I was on VSS duty. So as I said earlier, there was, when you came up the stairs, first is the big hall, and then there's one door that goes into the next kind of medium hall, which has a kitchen, open room, and then another door that goes into the back rooms. So all the Margis were out in the main room after the darshan. I was posted in front of the door that led to the back room, where only Baba was at that time. And I don't remember if Ramananda was probably in his room or back there, but basically all I remember was Baba. And at some point, after a couple of minutes, I'm sitting there, in VSS uniform, doing my duty. The door opens. Baba is there in a lungi and lungi and a t-shirt. White t-shirt and a simple colored patterned lungi. And he said, "Oh, Devashish, how did you like the darshan?" And for like at least 7, 8, 10 minutes, Baba, we're sitting there chatting about the darshan, Baba asking some questions, this and that, smiling. Very, such a familiar feeling,
You
a
remember the
father
question
talking.
he asked you? Do you remember the
At the
question
end,
he asked you?
he asked me, "How did you like the darshan? What did you think of that?" And then a bunch of other stuff I don't remember. I just remember the feeling. I'm sitting, I'm just chatting with Baba about you know about the darshan and how I like the program and but that I like that. Until finally, after whatever 7, 8, 10 minutes, the door to the main hall opens up. Somebody sees that Baba is standing by the door talking to Devashish, and all of a sudden, people start coming in one by one. And after Baba gives them a namaskar. After 1 minute, he goes back, closes the door, and that for me was the end of the day. So that was well. Just one more thing I'll mention about the visit to France. So the program was 2 full days. Baba gave 4 darshans, and then it was time to Baba to leave to go to Italy. So we brought Baba to the airport in a van. All the Margis left to go to Italy. Myself and Vishwapananda could not go because we were the LFTs. For very pregnant. No, first you have to clean up, put everything, and then when that's done, then you can go to Italy. So the hope was that if we could get everything done in one day, we could catch the end of the program in Italy. So we brought Baba to the airport to get the flight to Italy. And Baba was there with an entourage, maybe like 10 acharyas, something like that were all traveling mostly from India. Well, there was the SS Chapasidananda, and then he's from Italy, but he's the acting SS in Australia. And then there was Dharmavedananda, who was the VSS, and the rest of the Ramananda. It was the Acharyas and a couple of senior Margis from India, Ratida, and I forget the doctor's name. He was Dharma's Sambudhinanda's father. So before, when Baba arrived, all the Margis were there to receive Baba in the airport. So all the entourage was there, and it's very formal. When we go back, it's just me and Vishwapananda. And so all the acharyas, there were no Margis there to see them. So they all went off to see the stores, and walk over the airport like tourists, and it was just me, Vishwapananda, and Baba. And there was one other Margi who stayed. And we're walking up and down in the airport for a good length of time, maybe 40 minutes, just chatting with Baba, walking up and down. So at one point, Baba, I'm walking right beside him. Baba Chandra said, "Devashish, I heard that you learned Bengali while you were in India." I said, "Yes, Baba." And then I talked to Baba. We exchanged some. We talked a little bit in Bengali, my simple Bengali at the time. And I said in Bengali that Baba, now that I'm not in India anymore, I'm forgetting my Bengali. And then Baba quoted a Sanskrit shloka. And I said, "Oh, in Bengali, they don't understand." And Baba translated it, and he translated it into English. And basically, the gist of it was that it's almost impossible to really learn a language if you're not in the culture where it's being spoken, because you need to be hearing it, hearing the music of the language to absorb it. And then I asked Baba, what do you think is the sweetest language? I have fondness for Bengali. And Baba said, in my opinion, the sweetest language in the West is French, and the sweetest language in the East is Bengali. And I was in France, but years later, I would end up translating 4 of Baba's books at that time from Bengali into English. And I've recently retranslated 4 more books from the Chabda Chanaka series. So that was, anyhow, then finally there was time for Baba to go. All the HRs that came back in time, go catch the plane. We go back to the geography, start cleaning up. And a call comes a few hours later. Baba's been deported. He's back in the Lyon airport. And we jump in the van. have to go to the airport to pick Baba up, bring him back to the Jagadi. And then Baba was in the room with Kurunanda, who's the SS and his entourage for the people, and that's when he decided. He said coming back that, or it's maybe when he got there, that it was the Vatican. The reason he was deported was because the Vatican had pressured the Italian government not to let him into Italy. And then he decided, this was behind closed doors, that was inside, when Baba decided that he would go back to India immediately and organize a press conference. Kurunanda, he told me this afterwards, he immediately bought new tickets to go to India. He said, Devashish, he said, I had a reserve fund in my pocket, just in case if something happened. So he had a few $1,000s tucked away, no one knew about. And so he immediately, Baba said, no, we're going, I want to get on the next flight to India, was to Bombay, and arrange a press conference right away. And so Ramananda immediately bought the tickets, and we brought Baba back to the airport again. And Baba went back to Bombay and then had that press conference. From Gautam, of course, is a different experience. So it was very interesting hearing from his side what, like his relationship with his mother. He said, they always had a very good relationship. You remember, he had really wonderful memories growing up of the relationship between his parents. And he said, whenever his mother was sick, Baba would be personally take care of her, bring her tea, bring her medicine, make sure everything's going right. And it was a very sweet relationship. They never had crosswords in his experience, in his memory. She would also take care of Baba. So from his point of view as a child growing up, they had a very harmonious, very nice relationship, very sweet relationship.